All right, Real 2K recap, post All Star Western Conference edition. I posted the Eastern Conference earlier today. Be sure to check that out. We'll start off with the Clippers. We're going to be going in 2K alphabetical order. They lost to the Bucks, 116 to 110. Norm Powell was a DNP, so Amir Coffey got the start. Kawhi, Harden, and Zubats combined for 69 points. Very nice, although it wasn't enough for the W. Chris Dunn got the start in this one. Had 6 steals. He's starting because you can't really play him in the backcourt next to Ben Simmons, so it gives them better lineup balance across the board. Derek Jones Jr. coming off the bench with Kawhi at the 4. Ben Simmons, he was solid in this one. 6 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, three from the field, 20 minutes. Bogdan Bogdanovic, 15 points, 4 threes, 20 minutes. He's looking a lot better in a Clippers uniform than he was with the Hawks. The Clippers bench might be the best in the NBA. Heading over to the Memphis Grizzlies, they lost the Pacers 127 to 113. The loss dropped the Grizzlies briefly into third place. Ja Morant had only 12 points, 6 assists, and 5 turnovers on 4-15 shooting in this one, ultimately leading to the defeat. And then they beat the Magic in the following game, 105 to 104, to move back into a tie with the Denver Nuggets. Jaren Jackson Jr. Had a game-saving block with 1 second left. It's worth noting that Jackson Jr. has a chance to be Defensive Player of the Year with Victor Wembanyama's season-ending injury. He would be super max eligible if he wins the award. So it's really going to go down to Jackson Jr. and Cavaliers' Evan Mobley for Defensive Player of the Year. It's looking like one of those two will end up with a Supermax. The Grizzlies also waived Johnny Davis. Oh, that's right. He's not on the team. Where they bring in? They brought in Lamar Stevens on a 10-day. He was in camp with them, and they made space on the roster by trading Jake LaRavia to the Sacramento Kings. So I think he'll do well filling in on the depth chart. Marvin Bagley III also made his debut, playing 2 minutes against Indiana. I don't know how much run he's going to get down the stretch. The Utah Jazz, they got blown out by the Thunder 130 to 107. John Collins had 26 in that one. Markkanen got completely shut down, 5 points on 2 of 12 shooting. And then Keontae George had 20 points, 6 assists, 5 threes. He's been much better off the bench of late. KJ Martin also made his return, had 2 points in his Jazz debut. And then they also signed Jaden Springer there he is, to a 10-day contract. He had 7 points in his debut. He's probably looking like he'll at least get another 10-day contract out of the Jazz. Heading over to the Kings, they got blown out by the Warriors, 132 to 108. DeMar DeRozan had 34 points on a really efficient line, 10 of 14 from the field, 4-7 from 3, 10 of 10 from the free throw line. He had 6 assists as well. He's getting a larger offensive load with De'Aaron Fox gone. Over his last 8 games, 26 points per game, 5 assists, shooting 54% from the field, 46% from 3, 90% from the free throw line. So I'll probably boost up I'll probably touch his rating up in the coming days. Maybe his 3-point rating could go up a little bit as he's shooting much better from deep of late. And Markelle Fultz also made his Kings debut, had 8 points in 10 minutes, was 4 or 5 from the field, currently ahead of Devin Carter in the rotation. And then heading over to the Lakers, where the Fat Mamba has struck. Luka Doncic, in his 3 games with the Lakers, 15 points per game, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, only 36% from the field, 21% from 3, 58% from the free throw line. Four turnovers, 4 fouls, 27 minutes per game. The Lakers are 1-2 in the Luka games, and those are against bad teams. The Jazz twice, and now the Charlotte Hornets. The Fat Mamba against the Hornets had 14 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists, 5 of 18 from the field, 1 of 9 from 3, 6 turnovers, and 5 fouls. I say this all very tongue-in-cheek. He is coming back from injury. He will be getting back to strength, so I didn't bother to drop his rating or anything like that. He's still the number 2 point guard in the NBA behind Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but it would be nice to see him get back to the level that he was at with Dallas. LeBron James had 26 points, 7 rebounds, 11 assists, Finally, Luka gets to play with a player that's better than him. Austin Reeves, 8 points, 3 of 9 shooting. And then they without Luka, they beat the Blazers 110-102. LeBron had 40 points on the second night of a back-to-back, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. He did have 11 turnovers in this one, but it was his second 40-point game as a 40-year-old, which is now the most in NBA history. Austin Reeves had 32 points, 7 assists, also had 6 turnovers. And then I feel like Rob Pelinka obviously didn't learn anything from the Russell Westbrook trade. Losing Max Christie is kind of like losing KCP 2.0. I really don't know how this big three is going to fit together, as they're all pretty similar, like offensive players that need the ball in their hands. It's going to be a very delicate balance, how they divvy up the touches in this lineup, and obviously none of them are high-end defensive players. Somebody's got to guard the ball on this team. And, they're getting Luka, obviously, as a LeBron replacement for the long term, but what are they going to do until then? LeBron has a player option for next season, and he hasn't indicated that he wants to leave LA, if anything, the opposite. And then they have limited bullets to build a team around these guys. So really, they're kind of stuck with this core until the offseason. Maybe they'll trade Austin Reeves, maybe not. Maybe they want to, if they want to keep Luka and Reeves as the future of the team, of that backcourt moving forward, they absolutely need to get more defensive players somehow, but they really don't have a ton of options in order to do so. I kind of have to hope that guys like Jared Vanderbilt are able to rebuild their value, ditto for Gabe Vincent, etc. Let's move on to those Dallas Mavericks, though, who beat the Hornets. I'm sorry, no, not the Hornets. They beat the Pelicans, 111-103. They've quietly gone 5-1 since the Luka trade. PJ Washington returned. He had 24 points. Kyrie led the team with 35 points. And then Max Christie, who we were discussing before, 16 points off the bench, 6 of 7 from the field. The only reason he's not starting is essentially because it was promised to Klay Thompson. Since the trade, Christie is averaging 17 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, shooting 54% from the field, 47% from 3, 84% from the free throw line. So probably got to boost his rating up to an 80 overall at the very least. Kessler Edwards got the start at center again, but was kind of didn't really play much in the second half, wasn't that effective. Moses Brown was signed to a 10-day contract. He debuted, had 2 points in 12 minutes off the bench. Interesting timing for the signing, as due to the team's hard cap proximity, they're not going to be able to sign another player until the last week of the season. So Moses Brown is going to get this 10-day stretch, but then they're not going to be able to re-sign him for another month and a half. But hopefully they will at least be able to get, I'm not sure who back, maybe Anthony Davis, I don't know, it's not looking great. Maybe Dwight Powell, I don't know, they just need some bodies. Heading over to the Denver Nuggets, they won their 9th straight, beating the Hornets 129-115. They moved ahead of the Grizzlies for the number 2 seed, although they later got tied again. Jokic had 29 points, 17 rebounds, 9 assists, barely missing a triple-double, was 6 of 14 from the three-point line against the Hornets. A career high in three-point attempts for them. Obviously, Jusuf Nurkic was not willing or able to get out to the three-point line against Jokic. He's probably the MVP this year over Shai Gilgeous-Alexander if the Nuggets can hold on to the number 2 seed down the stretch, as this is his best season ever. He just continues to get better and better and better. Russell Westbrook, he made his return, came off the bench. Michael Porter Jr. also came back. So I restored everybody's positions. I brought Murray back to point guard, Braun back to the 2, and Porter Jr. back down to the 3. Murray had 34 points in this one, 7 threes. Gordon, 18 points. And then Julian Strawther off the bench was solid with 16 points and 4 threes. Heading over to the Pelicans, they lost to the Mavericks. As mentioned prior, Kelly Olynyk, very interesting development. He made his Pelicans debut in the starting lineup at power forward. Had 4 points in 24 minutes. But his floor stretching ability and passing were definitely boons to the Pelicans. He had a plus 30 net rating, so I assume that he will stick in the starting lineup. But wait, if he was at the 4, well then, yes, Zion was at the 3, had 29 points, 7 rebounds, was 11 of 15 from the field. And then Trey Murphy and CJ McCollum, I bumped both of their positions down. This is the lineup that they ran with. I like it moving forward. It's kind of difficult to have a Zion Misi front court just because of the lack of spacing. So I liked what they did here. And then like Zion in general, at the four, he was never the greatest like defensive option. He's not a good enough shot blocker or rebounder to really play the four. So at least if you put him at the three, he's like he's basically unguardable because he's way bigger than all the other threes that he's going to be matched up against. And then he's going to be faster than any fours that he gets guarded by. So really interesting development there. The Houston Rockets, they beat the Wolves 121 to 115. Jabari Smith Jr. returned off the bench and had 15 points, 9 rebounds. Jalen Green had 35 points in a duel against Anthony Edwards. Şengün had 24 points, and then Amen Thompson at point guard had 17 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists. And honestly, I think it makes sense to rate him higher than Fred VanVleet. Maybe you should consider bringing VanVleet off of the bench when he returns, as Thompson has really established himself as the future of the team with the injury-related absences that they've had. Heading over to the Spurs, the most shocking news of post-All-Star break is Victor Wembanyama out for the season due to a blood clot in his shoulder. It's not as serious as Chris Bosh's clot was in his lungs, which is what made it career-ending. Was likely going to be Defensive Player of the Year and All-NBA. He's now ineligible for awards due to the 65-game rule. Hopefully a full recovery for the brightest star in the NBA. He won't be able to play basketball this summer as he'll be recovering, so it'll be his first summer off from his international commitments. And it's really a bummer because he won't get to work on his game either. He's a basketball sycophant, but hopefully a speedy recovery for Victor. And then on the game front, they beat the Phoenix Suns without him, 120 to 109. Fox had 26 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists. Chris Paul had 13 points, 5 rebounds, 10 assists, passed Jason Kidd for number 2 in steals. A buyout you would think maybe would be possible because now that Victor's on the shelf, like the Spurs really don't have anything to play for. What's the point of keeping Chris Paul around? But I haven't heard anything that suggests that he wants a buyout. He is continuing to start for the team. So, and he, I think, generally seems to enjoy being in San Antonio. So we'll see. He has about a week or so to make any type of decision. I'm sure there are contenders out there who would like him, but maybe he's just content in this established situation. Certainly, there probably aren't any teams besides San Antonio that he would start for. Stephon Castle, he had 10 points, 10 rebounds, 3 steals off the bench. All 4 bench players for the Spurs were in double figures. The Wemby injury probably hurts his Rookie of the Year chances, as even though like maybe he'll have more like scoring opportunities, I feel like the Spurs are going to be completely out of like the media spotlight. And Bismack Biyombo got the start. He had 8 points on 4 of 4 shooting, played 16 minutes. He signed a second 10-day contract. I would assume that he'll get picked up for the rest of the season. They then lost to the Detroit Pistons in a 125 to 110. It was more or less a garbage time special as the starters got pulled in the first quarter after dropping to a 10-point deficit early. I believe this was a back-to-back. Keldon Johnson had 28 points in that one, was 11 of 13 from the field. Fox chipped in 27 points, so he's continued to score with Wemby out. And then only 22 minutes for Chris Paul, 21 minutes for Barnes. And obviously the Spurs should be prioritizing their youngsters down the stretch. So again, we'll see what happens with Paul. Phoenix Suns, Bradley Beal returned from injury, had 19 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists off the bench. KD had 22 points, Booker 17 and 8. Royce O'Neal got the start, had 27 points, which I believe is a season high. Bol Bol moved to the bench, had 9 points. We did not get a chance to see the Wemby versus Bol Bol meme matchup. And they actually, Bol Bol started over Nick Richards in the third quarter as the Suns were down 22 to 12 to the Spurs when Richards checked out. And this is, again, without Victor Wembanyama. So I feel like this maybe could be a permanent change. He is a negative 90, a minus 90 in terms of plus minus over his last 8 games, despite only playing around 20 minutes per game. So they're just getting killed in first quarters. And the Suns are 1-7 in those games, so they're continuing to slip. And I did make a rating change to Nick Richards as a result of his recent struggles. Dropped him down to an 80 overall. He was a -2, -10 to his layup rating, -15 to his close shot rating. And then I boosted his rebound rating by 10 because that is the one thing that he is continuing to do at a high level with the Suns. But dropped his shot IQ by 10 points, and then his offensive consistency by 5 points as well. The OKC Thunder, they blew out the Jazz 130-107. Chet Holmgren had 20 points, his best game since his return. Cason Wallace, he returned from injury, had 10 points off the bench. I shifted his position to point guard as OKC is just so stupidly deep. Jalen Williams runs the second unit, but this allows them to have Wallace, Joe, Wiggins, and Caruso, and then Jalen Williams as the 5. Although I don't believe he played in this one. That's like just crazy depth that they have. Kenrich Williams as the 11th man. AJ Mitchell is 12th when he comes back from his injury. Jesus. And then the Minnesota Timberwolves, not a ton of notes. They lost to the Rockets. Rudy Gobert did not play in that one, so they ran a small ball lineup. Naz Reid at the 5, Nickeil Alexander moving up to the 3, and Edwards, he had 37 points, although he gave up 35 to Jalen Green to cancel that out. Portland Trailblazers, they lost to the Lakers. Denny Avdia had 28 points. Toumani Camara, I need to get his rating up a little more, I think. He had 19 points, 5 steals in 38 minutes, was 7 of 8 from the field, 3 of 4 from 3. Wasn't Jerami Grant supposed to have lines like this? Jerami Grant, 3 points, 1 of 12 from the field in this one, 6 fouls in 30 minutes. Absolutely atrocious. And then Anthony Simons also with 8 points on 3 of 13 shooting, got worked by Austin Reeves. Disappointed that the Blazers didn't trade some of these guys. Portland should have just given the keys to Scoot and Sharp before the end of the season. Yeah, and then the Golden State Warriors, they blew out the Kings 132-108. They went with but they've over the last couple of games they've gone with a small ball lineup of Steph Curry, Podziemski, Moody, and Butler at the forward spots, and then Draymond Green at the 5. So I adjusted all of their positions to account for that. I have Moses Moody at the 4 rather than Jimmy Butler, as Butler was basically getting backed up by Gary Payton II, and Moses Moody was getting backed up by Guy Santos. Butler, for what it's worth, is also the backup point guard on this team, so I adjusted his secondary position as well. I did boost up Pat Spencer, as he is getting a handful of minutes here and there. He'll probably end up on a standard deal eventually. Kevin Knox and Yuri Collins are currently on 10-day contracts. They're going to be back and forth, I think, as the Warriors skirt the luxury tax. And that's the only reason why Pat Spencer isn't on a standard contract yet, is they can afford to play like this 10-day contract game with these guys, where they have them on the 10 days and then they're off the roster for 2 weeks until the Warriors are required to re-add the missing players to the roster. So then they'll sign them back to some 10 days, and then they'll be off the roster for another 2 weeks, and then at that point they probably give Pat Spencer the standard contract. But yeah, that was the Western Conference. I'm going to record another Real 2K recap covering yesterday's games. So as I'm recording this at 7 a.m. on February 23rd, I already did my write-up, so it'll probably be a quick succession of videos. Thank you guys for watching, and yeah, leave a comment in the leave a comment in the comments if you like the conference-based format of this, or if you prefer just like a more daily thing as opposed to like a full like multi-day dump. Anyway, thanks and have a good one. Peace.